approve the agenda. I'll make a motion to discuss and approve the agenda.
Second.
We're gonna recess this meeting to have a non-public session that will continue into tomorrow morning.
Yes.
And the things that you sent, you're gonna cover in your commissioners' reports?
Yeah, that was the plan.
I see it. All set with the agenda as printed with just the recess for the non-public session?
I'm okay with it, yep.
How do you vote?
Aye.
3-0. Approval of the minutes of May 6, 2025. I have a couple of things.
Yeah, I caught a couple of things too.
Because it's in a smaller font.
What'd
ready
you
to go?
say?
Do you have something?
Yeah, I've got a couple. I'm gonna go. Okay.
Yeah.
It's pretty minimal. Under DPW, bullet point 2, culvert needs a T at the end, so culvert.
Yep, I
Yep.
think I got that already, yeah.
Okay. Then if you go to page 2, the 4th bullet point down, the very last sentence says, "The question we have is how long can this type of filtration last before it be removed?" I think it needs to be removed
Yep,
and disposed of. And I think that's all I have. Pretty simple.
Okay. I had the culvert, but then had, underwater, the last name of Cahill,
yeah,
is in red.
because I'm not sure how to spell it.
Oh, I believe that is correct.
All right, great.
Except it's a capital C, I think. Is a small C in red?
No,
I
I
thought
think
it
I
was-
just had it in red,
Okay.
so, to
Yeah.
remind us, for me to ask.
You all set?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay. Yeah, you have it right. Underwater.
mm-hmm,
The first bullet, Muddy Beach well testing is complete this round. I tripped over this round. Would everybody understand what that means, this round? But I decided not to change that. The next sentence,
okay,
there's 2 sentences. MB2, Muddy Beach 2, only took 2 days to run dry and a total of 11 days to run dry.
Oh,
oh, no, that was a combination of both, the 11 days. Mm-hmm,
Say it in other words.
mm-hmm. I'll have to reword it.
what did you mean?
Muddy Beach 2 alone, when they started the whole drainage, Muddy Beach 2, it took 2 days for that to be done. But they did it together, but in combination, it took a total of 11 days.
He
Okay,
said
so-
Muddy Beach 2, the
Mhm.
shallower well, ran out of water in 2 days.
Correct,
It should say what Muddy Beach 1 did, not try to combine
All
the
right.
two.
okay,
So Muddy Beach 1 took 11 days.
yeah, total.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's all I can reword it that way.
Yeah, just keep them separate.
Okay,
Makes sense to me.
The next bullet down says pump speeds run manually, and the thought is to allow the DPW to adjust the speed when they need to fill water tanks.
Hmm.
What water tanks?
oh,
The DPW doesn't fill the Muddy Beach water tank. They don't fill water system water tanks. So it needs to say the water tank on their truck.
truck water tanks. Is there another name for them? No? Okay.
Yeah, if you just add in the
'Cause
truck.
we
Yeah.
wouldn't want people thinking our DPW
Yeah, no, I
manually
gotcha.
fills tanks.
Okay.
And
For the
certainly
water
not for
system.
the water system.
Yeah, I know.
Let's see, then, under water.
Still water?
Yeah. The second bullet from the end of that,
Okay,
it says Mark Ratham proposes that Ian install isolation valves and adapters. And it says on Bergdorf, it should say on Aspen in Bergdorf.
Aspen and Burn, okay.
One's going at the intersection of Aspen and Bergdorf, and the other one's going at number 5 Bergdorf.
Okay,
We originally wanted them both on Bergdorf, but we found out the water main doesn't run down
oh,
Bergdorf
yeah,
from Aspen.
right, yeah.
That's all I have. So with those adjustments, how do you vote on approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
3-0. Next we go to operations and payroll manifest. At 9:06. I made a little notes to myself in this. This payroll this manifest is for a total of $54,651.23.
Mm-hmm,
Yes.
But the actual bills that are being paid
right,
and transfers from the water systems account back to the operating account to pay the water system's share of electrical bills for the water system only total $1,326.31, and what we're doing is transferring $47,250 from deposits that were made
mm-hmm,
for water fees that accidentally went into
operations.
the operations bank account.
Correct,
So we are moving that money back out of the operating account into the water account.
correct,
You
and
need
I
a-
have a transfer
Need a
form for
scorecard
that.
for this game.
Okay, so just so,
Yeah.
so a total of $47,250,
Mm-hmm.
which were collections of water fees, got inadvertently deposited into the operations account instead of
Correct.
the water account.
Yep,
Okay, so it's just correcting that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought, because when I
Yeah,
first saw
'cause
that, I knew that those are water fees, but why did it go into operations? That was my question, so now I know.
I sent you a separate email with the backup documents on it,
Okay.
so,
Does that include the 1,500 for the cement floor?
Yes.
Okay.
That's another document you sent.
correct,
So 47,250 is going this way, and there's some money going the other way. To pay
I know,
to pay the electric bill.
unfortunately, yeah,
Yep.
but this is a
the-
clear view of what's happening.
Right. So we understand this dynamic.
Thank you.
All right, so in reality, what we're talking about here, let's just do a quick 933 point, what is it, 28? 28 minus 47,250 equals, oh, that really didn't work out. I'm just gonna ballpark it.
While he's
In
doing that,
reality,
could you do that while I add?
yeah,
You don't have to do it out loud,
Yeah.
just do it
okay.
Okay,
to make yourself happy. Now, at the bottom of this, where you do reconciliation, you have the water asset account at $350,529 to be reconciled. Is that's not showing this deposit of 47,
yes, it is.
it is showing
It
47,250.
is, it most definitely
That's my
is.
question. Follow that? Is the total at the bottom is already showing the money transferred into
Yes,
the bank account?
Okay,
because it's essentially in QuickBooks, it went into QuickBooks. However, the actual physical deposit at the bank used the wrong deposit and went into operating in error, so. Yeah,
Okay, so at 9:09, we'll move to the DPW report, and Jeff is not in. Any discussion on DPW?
How about the water?
yeah, and vote,
I don't think we voted and
you didn't,
the water.
Oh, the water
right,
manifest.
manifest.
please.
Yeah, so we discussed it. Do we make a motion on it?
no,
Make a motion that we approve this water manifest for $5,733.05.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
3-0 on that.
I don't think there was a motion on the operations either,
Yes, there was.
was there? I didn't hear it.
Neither. Well, Wood is still trying to work up something.
I was gonna say, do it again, just in case.
So make a motion, we approve that operations manifest
And payroll.
and payroll.
Yep,
Second,
Aye.
aye.
3-0 on that.
thank you.
So now at 9/11, we go to DPW. Anything you want to discuss on DPW?
But I was very happy we didn't get, the amount of rain that was that was predicted,
Right.
cause it would have been very high on the pond levels and possibly needed somebody to come in to work on the dam, and that didn't happen, so that was better.
Okay, great,
Yeah, it never got above that band.
great.
And but I believe the 5-inch board is still out. I don't, which is okay. Jeff will put it back in when he gets back.
So when did he pull it?
He pulled it a week ago today. We discussed that a week ago, that he was doing it in advance of the coming rains.
Oh,
Then I talked to
so-
him saying, well, the rains will be all over Saturday, so, maybe you can come in Sunday.
Put the board
I
back.
put the board back in, but I don't think that happened, but I don't know that for a fact. But in
Gotcha.
any event, it did go up a little bit yesterday. I took a picture when I was coming back from Dover, and the water level was still below that middle band.
Okay,
We went out to look at the Grissom culvert with the high water, and the water was completely filling the top overflow culvert. That was pretty close to maxed out. There was still room at the top. But it was a nice level to see where the water was over towards where the road usually gets damaged by these big storms, where we wanted to put a swale. The sign that I look for was when in these storms, the water is actually traveling down the ditch line of Grissom, contributing. A lot of times when it's raining, you don't see any water coming down, but that shows me that all of the water on the hill coming down through the woods is reached a point that the hill can't hold it anymore, and it goes out to the road, and now you see a flow down the road that contributes to it. So now you're getting a compound effect. Last week, we talked about this, and we heard that the DPW intended on making this ditch, I'm not calling it a swale anymore,
really?
2 to 3 feet. I'm having a hard time with that. I just want to be on record. I'm not sure
I thought we agreed
Thought
on
it
a
was gonna
5
be
foot
five.
wide, 5 foot
Yeah.
wide swale.
I asked how deep it was.
Oh,
Deep, you're
deep.
talking about the 2 to 3
I
feet deep?
asked why it was 5 feet, and it was because of the material. And if you replay it, you'll hear him say that he wants the material to cover the ramps up out of the ditch. And that's gonna be 2 to 3 feet. And that's not a swale anymore. And that drops the level down. If that goes down 3 feet, that's thing's taking water long before it's gonna crest the road. So, I don't know what's going on with this, and it's not done.
Well, so do we need to just go back
And-
to the drawing board?
Do we know if the material has been purchased?
And I haven't received any invoicing for it.
Okay.
Would you still want a swale, just a different design than what was given to us?
Well, what was the date that we started this?
It was kind of like a week, a couple,
April 9th?
I think 3 weeks ago.
Yeah,
When did we meet
about 3
on
weeks
Grissom
ago.
Road, all 4 of us? That was 3-4 weeks ago.
yeah.
I don't know.
And then they gave the drawing. And then last week we approved the drawing. My question was, if it's 5 feet, I thought we've agreed to something wider, and you just explained why. The 5 feet isn't even really 5 feet anymore.
Right, in hearing the explanation, I didn't immediately say 2 to 3 feet is too much. When I went out and saw what it looked like, was that Sunday?
We went out on Saturday and looked at it.
I thought,
because that's when it was raining.
Right.
I don't have any control over this, I concluded. It's not what I asked you to vote for almost a month ago. And I don't know what the sense of urgency is for the village to get this in there. I don't think that we have to run out in every storm to see if a solution that we want to implement has been done. Something has to
I don't
change.
believe we should have to do that.
Anyway, it won't get resolved today.
Correct.
Okay, but I'm still confused now. We came up with a solution, even if the solution as last approved is in your mind not the right one. We still want and we know it's not a guaranteed solution, but it is hopefully will work if we get really, really heavy rains. So do we still want something? Some kind of soil out there? We just need to rethink the dimensions of it?
We want what was originally approved. The
Yeah, I don't
actual
see this
full
thing being
swale.
anything more than 6 to 12 inches deep, not 3 feet.
Yeah.
That means that the thing can be wider. They changed the material too,
Okay?
and so I think we need to, if you want to, if you're open to it, we can hold off, tell them to hold off, and we need to discuss this further. This is now dragged out based on the weather again. But that's why I'm not sure I wanna, would it be worse to have them do the 3-foot ditch and then have the storm come? I'm running the risk now of bringing it up saying I'm not so sure we're doing the right thing. Adding more delay onto something I don't know when we have a definitive date that this is gonna happen by.
Well, there's two things here. I think what you're hearing is, what I'm hearing is, why don't we change the swale to 5 foot wide and 6 inches deep, and across that area of the road that we discussed. It was also then gonna be lined with that material, correct? And other than that, it's just get it done as quickly as possible.
Right, and he did mention that him and Tony were gonna start on this when he came back.
And that sounds like a much easier sort of project than what we discussed last week. So all we have to do is tell them, we're changing the dimensions. This is what we want.
I'll make a motion that we change the dimensions, that the sidewalls of the swale is 6 inches and the middle of it is 12.
Second.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm gonna say aye, but I'm trying to picture this in my mind. Okay, 5 feet wide, so we have the swale, goes across the road, 5 feet wide, no, 8 feet wide, excuse me, 8 feet wide. And then 6 inches deep when you reach the deepest point. No?
1 foot deep at the deepest point in the middle,
In the middle.
6 inches at the edge.
Yeah.
Here's the edges,
Yep.
the middle's like this.
Ah, okay. All right.
It pays to be half Sicilian, but I use my hands.
All right. Yeah, I'm not a road engineer. These things
No, but
don't.
this works for you.
A lot of things work. All right.
Aye.
Well, then the good thing is, it hasn't been done yet, but if now that we've bounced this idea back and forth a lot of different ways.
This will let it be wider too, because it's not using the material for 3-foot walls down the sides.
Right.
Right.
Right, okay.
But I'm still not clear, it's still not clear to me. Now I see why you need engineering drawings,
Yeah.
why an engineer just puts all the detail in, because I don't have a good handle of how this material is held down at the mouth. How far it goes down the bank and what's holding it down on the entrance to the bank. So it's just concerning to me the communication hasn't been that excellent. But we have a motion
We gotta
made,
finish the
so
vote, yeah. Nancy second.
how do you vote?
Aye.
3-0. Maybe we'll end up doing the right thing.
Doing something's better than nothing.
Anything else on DPW? So at 9:20, we'll go to the subject of the water system. And I guess we should cover, going to the Rock House Mountain
Yes,
The visit, yeah.
facility. I took several pictures that I sent to the office.
Yep.
And you've seen those, what,
Yes, I saw those, yes.
they have 3 large 18-inch wide cylinders. It's pretty simple. The water comes out of the wells, goes through these 3 cylinders that are about almost 6 feet high.
yep,
And then the water goes out and goes into the tank. And they look like they had a smaller filter leading into it that may be taking the iron out, which is part of our discussion. They said that when they put the new well in, which is uphill from Muddy Beach on Modoc Hill Road on private property, they did a easement deal with. They were getting uranium right away. So I'm picturing it's in the straw and the underground water flows down the mountain and it goes from their well to our well.
Wow.
And, but you can only imagine what's happening underground.
Well, maybe they're already doing some of the work for us, just not enough.
They're not putting clean water back into the ground right now.
right.
Okay, all right.
So,
I'm imagining that's not
I'd be
happening.
a waste of
that's
money.
not happening. But because they had the 3 tanks there, is it like a triple distilling process or only 1 tank in use at a time for taking out the uranium?
The gentleman that was nice enough to let us in there answered a few questions, but wasn't a technical guy for exactly how all this worked.
Mhm.
He said, things that he did say was, the system was installed about 7 years ago by Lakes Region Water. And it had a cost of $27,000.
Yep.
And it's been running for 7 years, and they have not had to dispose of any uranium waste.
Yeah.
So those are
And there's,
the
and
3.
that's a very active system.
Wow.
Unlike
Yep.
what we're talking about of only using Muddy Beach when
Right.
we have to.
Right,
So
Huh.
that gives you a little,
That's good, that's good.
yeah, and, one of the things that surprised me, I guess I thought the filters would be above the tanks, they're actually in the tanks. So the filters are,
In those big cylinders we saw.
in
the
the,
pictures.
in the top of the cylinders.
Okay.
And then it's clean water coming off the bottom,
Oh.
going into the water system.
Right.
didn't
But-
Ian say that those things, those tanks are filled with little, like ceramic beads
Yes.
Yes,
that have the resin and they're charged
yeah,
so that the uranium molecules wanna cling to the beads.
to it, and then go in, yeah.
Wow.
So I'm picturing these little white beads, I don't know why they're white, but
Any color, but yeah.
I like to
Um,
think that they clean.
Yeah, my only question is, are all 3 tanks active in the filtration process, or are you only 1 tank at a time and you switch over? I don't know.
From looking at the way it's piped,
Mhm.
it looks like all 3 of them.
Okay,
Oh, wow.
so it's really going through quite the scrubbing
It
process.
might be 3 parallel tanks because
Right,
adding a bead system that's 6 feet tall, the water has to travel through is gonna put head loss. In other words, the pressure that the pumps are doing to get the water into that building
Yeah,
have to go through this restricted thing that's pulling the uranium out of it. But if you have 3 of them, it's parallel, it drops the
Exactly.
resistance.
right, gotcha, that makes perfect sense.
Another piece of my imagination for you.
Well,
No, that
it's,
sounds-
it's a good conjecture, obviously we'll need to know more, but that sounds good.
Huh.
All
and,
right. And now we know one company that does Lake Regions Water, what is it? Lake Regions
Lakes
Water.
Regions,
And they're
yeah.
still in business?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
They're the operators of Rock House.
yeah,
Ah, okay.
yes, so we could possibly, speak to Tom Mason about the setup.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, were we planning on visiting the Conway facility as well, just to get more information? Or was this sufficient for our needs?
I'm happy with that one visit.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to know what it entailed, what it looked like.
Okay. Sorry I couldn't be there, I would've loved to have been there, but
The interesting thing is that building that's on the corner of Highland and Modoc, it's the one you can see from Modoc Hill Road when you're going by Brenner's on your left and Highland goes up.
Yep.
The cement tank is the foundation of that whole building. The door that's at the top of our water tower at Rhinebeck is the same door that's on the floor inside the building.
it sits right on top of the tank.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Yeah, you just lift the catch and there's all the water that there.
okay,
Wow,
well, and it's all
There's plenty
underground,
of room in that building.
and the tank is underground, or,
Yeah,
okay,
Yep.
so the water stays at a reasonable temperature all year round?
tries to stay at 50 degrees.
Yeah.
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 Enough on that?
Enough on that.
Okay, so at 9:26, we'll see that there's no scheduled appearances. So at 9:26, we'll move to administrator's report.
Okay, so first I wanted to mention that we have the meeting on 5/28 is a Wednesday because of the holiday. And I am going to be approximately half an hour late to that meeting. And I want to be sure that's okay.
Why don't we just start the meeting half hour later?
Are you traveling on that day?
No,
I-
I'm done, I'm done.
Oh, yay.
So there'll be a party that day.
Hopefully.
Ring the
Let
bell.
me just double check, but I'm pretty sure, yeah, 5:28 you said.
It's a Wednesday.
It is a Wednesday.
So barring any unforeseen circumstances, the 27th is my last day in the tank.
So, do we want to make that 9:30 or start in? Is the stuff that happens in the first half hour that
The manifest, usually get to, at least to the manifest. By that
we
time,
could change
and
the
maybe
order of things
DPW.
too?
Yep, true.
What do you want to do?
I say let's just start at 9:30 when Jennifer can be here, all right? I'm
All right,
confident,
so change the
I'll be
time to
fine.
9:30? Okay. All right, that was first. I have a new driveway application for your review.
Okay.
I think that's everything. They're gonna drop off the check, was one thing that was missing, but they're gonna drop off the check at the office.
This is new construction, you think? I guess it is if it has a
Yeah,
site plan.
it is.
So wait for the check to come in before we go out and look at this?
Yes.
And let's see if it has a
Show me the money.
cross-section.
Yeah.
No. Oh. You have to study this, there's a cross-section of something. You have to have this at the driveway. We'll hold off on that.
Sure. So I don't know if she wants to get into her cash flow report that she diligently worked on yesterday.
Well, this is a first draft,
Yep,
and what to keep your phone down, we don't want any adding and subtracting, because it may not be right, okay?
Good thing I didn't bring my Hewlett Packard calculator because that's so much easier to use than a phone calculator, and I'd be there. But
So-
I forgot to bring it today, so you're safe.
I'll make a motion that Jennifer sends us a copy of this Excel spreadsheet.
Sure?
Second.
Via email, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'd also like to see a profit and loss.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion that we get a profit and loss sent to us this week.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
3-0.
I changed a few things around, but the important thing is that in July, the end of July, we only have $51,000 left. And I didn't include those two big expenses. So the 60,920 for the Rainart tank, and then down into the Primex property and liability insurance is 54,000. So if things hold the way they are right now, we would need a hit on a TAN loan in July.
So we're in the middle of May. We wanna have the bank approve the TAN by the middle of June.
Yep.
So that we would have the cash in the bank by the end of June,
If you can
to be
think-
safe, not stressed getting this done.
Right, I was gonna call the bank this week if you know how much you think we should ask for total. We've done 400,000 in the past. We know this will be 120,000. And last year we didn't use it again, we didn't need it.
Well, we also have a possible check from the tax collector coming into us in July.
The end of July.
I believe that I heard at a selectmen's meeting that the bills are all due
July 10th.
July 10th. So if you gave yourself 14 days after that for the clerk for the selectmen to sign the check. So we'll plan on the end of July. So we'll need the cash mid-July to cover these. Then after that, we're getting half of the tax money from last year's tax bill into the bank. Is there a place that we can put that on this sheet? Our estimate as to what the cash flow coming in for that is.
Sure. I'd probably put it in August.
Which line item do you put in the income we get from property taxes?
Taxes.
Okay, taxes. Okay,
We got our tax bill before January, so it's not here.
okay.
On the side here, this is
Kinda cut off on the larger, but,
1224, we got the 379,229, that was our taxes.
that's taxes, yep.
And then on the 26th, we paid off our TAN loan for that year, which was 143,500. So that's why our beginning balance,
That's on the far right-hand side. Those two numbers, the date and the numbers that you see, the top one is taxes, the second one down is the TAN.
that's why our beginning balance was 435,000, even though we got a huge check.
So we're not sure whether Camden operates the same way as Northway.
Well, from my first discussion with my old Northway friend, who's done our last two TAN loans, she said we work with Divine and Miliment. I don't know how to say. It's a law firm.
Yeah,
They do all the stuff. So I was gonna call her this week and ask her who I begin talking to, what they need and so forth. I'm hoping that just because we're gonna be using a sort of a fancy lawyer, that our origination fees are not gonna be too much higher. I don't know if Divine will do the legal opinion that we asked the Freiberg firm to do last year.
Sounds like it's going from 500 back up to 2,500 again or more with a Concord law firm.
I don't know, that's what I'm gonna have to ask and figure it out.
But that's Camden saying who the attorney has to be. We don't get to choose the attorney
no,
anymore.
boo,
They do all the paperwork
I
and the
see.
approval and so.
So is this loan kind of a revolving fund? Could we,
It's
is this?
a line of credit.
It is, so we need to determine two numbers. The number of the entire TAN for the fiscal 2025 and what the first round of withdrawal of that is. And that's basically these two big expenses in July and whatever else, the standard burn rate for that month. What is the standard burn rate now? Any idea? Is that in here yet?
$48,302.25.
Yeah,
Yep.
see that's the projected going out from June or May.
And that's an average of the first 4 months of what we did. See where it says expenses?
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep,
So, what did you say the average of that was?
$48,302.25.
Now I'm gonna have to study this because that's not what it used to be.
No, it used to be 55,000.
Yeah. How can it possibly go
Go
down?
down.
Because we're more frugal. I don't know.
Because we don't have an employee we're paying for.
Yeah,
I think that's a big part
We
of
don't
it.
have what?
An employee.
we're down an employee.
Employed that we
Oh.
pay for.
Yeah, we had,
Mm-hmm.
the village used to have 1.5 or more administrators and 2 full-time DPW
Right.
with benefits.
Right, so that
So that
definitely,
burn rate-
And everything, so
That burn rate is skewed then.
yes,
it'll
So this
probably
is a
go up.
worthwhile conversation. We're not gonna get tricked by this average. We're gonna
Correct.
plan on a higher
We're
average.
gonna need a higher average.
Yep. Dinah and I talked about that as well.
When,
And
yeah,
as we
yeah.
go through the months, the actual will be put in there. The
Oh,
actual
right.
of what we used,
which is right now reflected up through April.
right?
All right, so,
okay.
And I will get this tidier up and stuff and
Yep.
finish it up.
So, on this, one of the things for July, you got the 48,000, but then the 60,000 for the backhoe,
The 60,000 for
Rhinoc
the
tank.
Rhinoc tank.
That's the Rhinoc tank, 60,920 in July.
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay,
The backhoe is 22,972 in October.
got it. So the 60,000, the 51,000, or 54,000. Do we wanna,
July's a killer month, yeah.
I guess, I would almost wanna see those numbers added into July.
Yes, there will be. It'll carry down to total expenses down here. I just didn't do that.
Yeah, this is not complete yet. This is not fully fleshed out. It's not flowing through. So you have a
Well,
beginning
let's
cash
do
balance
this.
and an ending cash
we're gonna
balance.
work this sheet. We all agreed that we wanted to start with a draft in the
Yes.
conversation like this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, if you had to swag what the actual burn rate should be for the second part of 2025, are you back up to,
55.
55 at
right,
least,
so we'll use
At
that
least.
number,
yeah.
right, so
Just
six
So you want
months
me to
times
change that to
55?
You want me to change that to 55 across?
Yeah, let's do that for a working number right now.
Okay.
Obviously, when real numbers come in, we'll refine that, but right now, that's a good an estimate as any.
Okay, I'll do that. I think it'll make us look more realistic.
Do we have to, should we make any kind of decisions today, but what I'm looking at is 6 months at a burn rate of 55,000, that's over 300,000 right there without any large bills.
Right.
It's not accounting for an infusion of tax money coming
Mm-hmm.
in August.
Right.
There's a formula we could guesstimate it, I guess.
I'm just painting the biggest picture now without saying we're gonna make any decisions today.
Mm.
But if you wanted to begin to talk to Our Lady at Camden, you could tell her what the ballpark is that we're talking about, if that helps. Or do you need, would you really like to have numbers before you begin talking to her?
Well, before I do any type of application, I would need the numbers.
Because I'd like to see if we can start getting the legal stuff done. That's not dependent on this at all.
Right.
Because that's the gating factor usually, is how long it takes.
Yeah. Let's get the legal opinion.
Do you want to be involved with that, or do you want us to talk directly to Camden in Willamette about this?
The legal opinion?
Yes,
I can do it.
okay.
You guys got enough on
Are
you?
you agreeing that if we can start that ball rolling with the attorney on their end, we'll be in good shape. We'll review this, plug more numbers in, and we should set a goal that we have all the numbers that we want for Camden by first week in June.
Yep.
Give us 3 weeks from now
Yeah.
to nail all this down and in the meantime, Dinah will begin to discuss what we have to get done with their attorney to get the letter that they need on file of,
It might be very simple too.
could be, yeah.
And is it a matter of they're using, their lawyer for the drafting of the documents themselves, and we will still need our lawyer, or the one that we used in Maine last year, to have the statement that we're eligible for, and
Was it clear to you when they brought up Divine Millimet that it was replacing our need to have, wasn't clear? So you need to hear those words from them.
yeah. Yeah, because then if we still need to have our own,
Yeah, we have to start that too.
we have to start on that.
So let me get that answer for you, I'll have it next week, and we can proceed.
George Bernard Shaw.
Pardon?
The biggest problem with communication is the illusion that it has taken place.
So will you require Dinah to update anything on this, or you want this draft sent to you?
I'd like to get this draft
Okay.
and
And we'll
we'll
have an update for next week.
have it.
Okay,
We'll
Yep.
put the dates of each draft as, this is gonna change
all right,
week to
gotcha,
week.
very good.
And it's so easy to do on the computer, it's wonderful. I wish it's so big on the computer, you can see everything.
Yeah, yeah. But just, Donna, just make sure I understand your terminology here. The top line, positive cash flow, that really is
No, that's
beginning cash at the
Yeah.
beginning of the month?
beginning, yeah.
And then total income minus expenses is ending cash, end of the month, which will then become beginning cash for the next month.
Yep.
Okay, so it keeps, okay, got it.
Just
I
like
told
your-
you you'd love this.
Just like
I'm
your
just,
registered
yeah,
account.
it's like a standard cash flow, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just, okay.
There's bigger numbers than we
All set on this? I know you don't wanna let it go.
Oh, no, let's move on.
Nancy's still studying it.
I am.
No, but,
I'm still looking at the expenses line, thinking that the stuff that's in the bottom, the Primex, the loan agreements, should be showing in the expense expected for that month.
So right now, this draft just has the numbers plugged into the cells and it isn't actually used in the calculations of the top line and
yeah,
bottom
this
line.
is not all plugged in. But I think maybe the format,
Is that what you're saying? In the same way you saw, cash coming in not added to above, you're seeing the expenses aren't added in either? Oh, that's not what she's saying.
She's saying that they should be listed under expenses.
in other words,
Yeah, it's
expenses
gotta
should
be
all be lumped
included.
together, so you see total expenses, and that includes any loans paid out.
So for July, I would expect instead of seeing 48,000, I would wanna see the 60,000
Plus the 54.
added and the 55,000. I would expect to see that number over 100,000.
It is, it's right down here. It's 115,461. But I agree, I would
I
love if
see what
the
she's
expenses were
saying,
more
though.
lumped
Yeah.
all together, like one line under another.
Ah, okay,
It's there, it's there.
okay, yeah.
The format works, it maybe could be made more readable, and I'm more than
Yeah,
happy to take a
but,
crack
like,
at that if you
split
want,
out,
but
yeah.
Dinah's doing a lot of this work, so it's
Yeah.
really, it's what works, we don't wanna make anything harder for her.
Well, that was a good communication.
Okay,
So should those be,
so,
should the Primex and so forth be moved up to the truck and the backhoe stuff? As an expense, so you can see them all together?
what do you
Yeah,
think?
in other words, one line after another. So in other words, expenses is strictly just operating expenses, but then let's say below that, you had, all the loans, directly below it, not as a separate, then below that, TAN loans, in other words, any expenses.
Well, then we're,
All together, one after another, and then a total line, so it's not broken up between sections across the, I'm not articulating this very well, but across the entire page.
I'm following where you're going, but then we're putting the entire stuff in the bottom, from the bottom up into that first line. So,
You and I can talk about this too.
Yeah,
Nancy.
it's the visual
It's the visual,
of how
yeah.
it's set up, yeah.
And another thing is for the truck loan, we do not have a payment in August, cause we paid it off.
I was gonna ask about that.
Oh, that 11,500, that's right, so that goes away.
Yep, the
Okay.
August payment.
Nice.
Yep.
All right, so we don't have to worry about that. All right,
And then left shows a 120.25.
where's,
all right,
Let's see,
Okay.
it has total,
all
yeah.
right, you got it.
Work in progress, and it's not too bad, I was afraid of it actually, but I'm not anymore. Cause I worked on it, it didn't screw up. I was afraid if I
I'm thinking if we just kept
something else.
all,
She was
You know,
fine.
okay,
all, beginning cash, then all revenue sources, and then that adds up, then below that, all expenses, that adds up. And then when you subtract one from the other, you have ending cash flow for the month.
Yeah,
It's just a visual thing.
Yep.
I'll take a crack at it, if you like it, you like it, if you don't,
Well, I'll do it, let me try it, let's see if you like it next week.
okay.
what's the
We can
March
compare notes.
income?
And I'll have my Hewlett Packard next week.
What's the 100,000 March income?
Yeah, I was wondering about that too. Miscellaneous income, there, in March, it was $139,679
miscellaneous,
under
Yeah,
miscellaneous.
That's when we closed out,
The bank,
bank.
Oh, okay, right, so it's going into a new, okay, because you're using the bank statements as part of the calculation process. Got it. That makes perfect sense.
Okay, enough of that.
Where did our reimbursement from Primex come in?
Did we
Was it
get
about
one?
14,000 we got reimbursed?
I don't know, we'll have to find it.
Okay,
It might be under.
maybe that's
miscellaneous
April,
income.
part of that 30,000?
Probably in under April, yeah. Cool.
and other sources are radio tower money, scrap metal money,
Yep. Yep,
$300.
yeah,
That could be the party fund.
yeah.
And that includes driveway permits and the small stuff too that comes in too.
Yeah, miscellaneous, it's all
yep,
in there.
that's all
yeah.
additional
And none of
income.
this is water.
Mm-mm.
No,
No, they should be totally kept separate from anything water.
Need to
The
do
only
budget
thing
reviews
that's
on water.
water is the deposit that the water account makes to the operating account to pay it back, so that's in here, but
right?
Yeah, should
there's
be.
no water.
Is there a way to easily put that in here so it becomes clear as to the back and forth between the two accounts?
No,
That'd be
I don't
kinda
think it needs-
difficult to
Okay,
do
alright.
that.
Yeah,
That's a manual effort.
I don't think we ever anticipated the cash flow between the water and the
Really?
operating, like, we know the operating account pays the bill and then the water system reimburses it. But we don't get down to the detail of that little cash flow, like
It's under
the
miscellaneous.
tax
income.
anticipation
It'd be
note,
part of
getting enough money to
miscellaneous.
cover what we need for cash for the operating budget to cover the 1 month advances that the operating budget gives the water
Right.
system.
Yeah.
right.
It's not significant enough, I don't.
I don't think
Hasn't
it's
been.
significant enough.
Okay, I mean, this, when you're projecting out to the future, it's still always a bit of a crystal ball, but it should be close enough
Well,
for
this-
tax anticipation.
Yeah, exactly,
So let's not get down to the net's butt here.
but just so that we know how
Yeah.
all the pennies flow, we're covering it all.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, and that line is there with the, total expenses. And I hadn't gotten as far to look at that thinking that
Right,
it should be up,
yeah.
so
Okay, as much fun as this is,
let's
we're
move
gonna
on.
move on.
Yay.
Nice job, thank you, Dinah,
Thank
Yes,
you.
thanks.
And if you have any
And thank
feedback to give me, because you.
because I know you were part of it too, so
Well,
I
yeah,
said
a little
thank you.
bit.
Thank you.
And if you have any more comments, let me know offline and we can, I mean, because we used to do it and.
Yes.
So you may be making changes to the spreadsheet itself?
Yeah,
I think we're just talking for readability purposes.
Right, but I mean, so that would be you suggesting what the changes are, and you're you're
no,
okay with?
she's,
I did it.
Well, you're
right.
sitting
If
at
she
her
needs my
computer.
assistance,
Okay.
I'll help her,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
but
I didn't know who was
she
hands-on
didn't,
on it.
yeah, no, I had her
The
set
two
up
of you
on the
were watching
computer
it.
and
No,
everything.
Dinah said she was gonna do it. I
Okay.
just said I was gonna reserve the right to have fun with it too if I wanted to.
Oh, yeah,
And you can.
You have that right.
As long as you label your files so that we know
oh, yeah,
what's what.
right.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
make sure that,
What is version 1, 2, 3?
He's gotta have his initials in the name of the file
Right.
somewhere with the date.
yeah, you
Right.
can't confuse the two, yeah.
Alright, so now we've done with the administrator's report.
Mhm.
We move on to old business table items at 9:51. And we have highway and parking ordinance.
You gonna tackle it this week or what? Did you want to?
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
But
I've got all the ordinances in a notebook, but at some point I took the highway and parking ordinance out of it.
And modify it.
I got blank. I got Zippo. I probably brought it in as a.
so I guess the big thing on this is, do we want trailers, boats, etc. included in the draft that we will give to the voters at the public hearing?
I think we do, because I think there's enough homeowners out there with these, we discussed, have these toys that they didn't have 30 years, 40 years ago, like ski mobiles and RVs or campers or something. I think we have to give that option and treat it the same as just regular vehicles. But in terms of permits for how long they can keep it there, I think we do. I mean, the key is controlling it so that it doesn't become a long-term parking solution like it was last winter or the winter before when people kept their trailers there forever.
So I know when we last talked about this, we talked about section 3, where it says road and parking.
Yep.
That you wanted to split them out. Like you want one section road and a completely separate section that speaks about parking.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
agreed.
But I think right now we're talking specifically about Hutwell and how sort of like problematic this has become in terms of laying out what the rules are.
So you're saying that somebody can apply to have a snowmobile trailer there all summer? 30 days at a time?
No. What was, I mean, when a person wants to park a car there, we only allow it up to 30 days, and didn't we say specifically that you're not gonna be able to drive it out and then come back the next day and apply for a new 30-day permit? That wasn't the intent, as I recall. I'm just saying, whatever we come up with for regular standard automobiles, I think ought to be applied also to the trailers and the campers as well. Make it uniform across the board.
All right, so getting back to what we talked about before, the Hutwell parking lot can be used for temporary overnight parking, and then there was input of saying of vehicles up to 4 days without having to complete a form that says, I'm gonna be here from this date to this date, and here's my registration, and blah, blah.
Okay, so what problem is there if someone just parks their trailer with snowmobiles on it for 4 days, but then gets it out of there by 4 days, but then all of a sudden needs more time, let's say 3
I think
weeks,
there
and puts
should
in
be
an
separate
application.
sections altogether, if you're gonna do that, that speaks to vehicles and then speaks to recreational trailers, whatever other stuff.
Okay,
That's what I think.
all right, well, I'm curious as to why it doesn't apply to all parking of anything there. I may be totally wrong about this, but I wanna know why can't
Because
it
it
keep it
can get
uniform?
really cluttered, I don't know.
Well,
It can get really cluttered over there.
Picture where it was when we put the pink signs up. If you need to see the pictures of what it looked like.
Oh, I remember
It
exactly
was
what it looked like.
wall-to-wall trailers
Right.
Yep.
that had all been there for a long
Months,
time.
but those were for months,
Yes,
right.
but you're pulling in, you need to leave your car there, and it's wall-to-wall trailers. The trailers aren't being left there for the same reasons as somebody parks their car there.
Correct.
That's the way I look at it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not parking, that's storage. That's tax-free storage. That's using somebody else's land.
Okay, so now we got two definitions there, storage and parking.
Yes, and I don't think the parking lot should be used for storage.
No,
If you wanna leave your trailer there for the 4 days, and there's gotta be a limit on how many trailers can go there before the cars are blocked out.
Right.
And what is the effort that we have to do to administer this?
Okay,
Because the way that it works is, when somebody sees something happening at that parking lot, that becomes the de facto regulation. And then everybody does it,
yeah,
until the pink signs come out. And then they all go away. It's like, when the camel's head comes back in the tent, here comes 6 camels, is the way that it works.
I mean, isn't there a trailer down there now? It's parked in the corner, that real black one that's in the
Is-
corner.
Yeah, the construction trailers are another animal that, if you want sections,
Uh-huh,
construction
See what I
trailers,
mean?
construction equipment and
It's-
construction
it's
trailers should be
endless.
its own section. We're not gonna write this ordinance today.
No,
but we're.
no,
I mean,
I'm
that was
just,
enthusiastic.
no, I'm just looking to see what we wanna see and I'll start a new draft, you know?
right,
Okay, so what I'm hearing is if it's a raging snowstorm and a homeowner can just not get his trailer with the snowmobiles into his own property driveway, it's a steep hill, whatever, it's okay to put it in the Hot Wheel parking lot, like 4 days max.
That was originally how it all worked for
Yep.
decades.
Yep,
It's when SUVs and 4-wheel drive were not the standard. Often, people would park there and get somebody that had a car that could maneuver better in the snow, shuttle them to their house. When I always had a police department with a 4-wheel drive,
we
they
used to bring
did the
them home.
wrong thing and shuttled people.
no
But people
kidding.
walked up Oak Ridge Road to get to the houses in the bad storms. This is when we had 2 one-ton plows with no wings, and
Wow,
we could lose it pretty often. We'd have to call in front-end loaders the next day to dig the village out. So that's the thing is what is the purpose of the parking lot? It's primarily for people with automobiles, for passenger cars, to be able to park them there. And it's not storage if it's limited to 4 days, which is a long weekend showing up a day early. And summer and winter varies too as far as sections,
Yes,
if you want to break it down.
mm,
If we're gonna think about this
Yeah.
and have this discussion, get our thinking kinda going in the same direction, see.
So why then, if we're on the parking side of the house, then why are we saying you can take out a 30-day permit for parking a vehicle?
Well, we're gonna,
Versus just you can keep it there 4 days a week, whatever the proper amount of days is, then it's gotta go. We're saying if you have a car, you can put in a permit for up to 30 days.
the term 30
That's
days
what it
may
says
leave
today.
this ordinance
Yes,
as a result of our effort here.
Okay, it may, but since it's not now, and I don't know what it was 20
Thirty-
years ago or 30 years ago, what was the rationale behind that as opposed to short-term parking and storage?
overflow parking was the original intent,
Okay,
period.
all right,
So if there was extra vehicles at a house for a long weekend, or there was a nasty snowstorm in the winter and they had to park there because they couldn't get to their house and they were gonna walk, that is the intent of this parking lot.
Keep
It's-
them off the road
Yes,
in the wintertime so the snow plows can do the roads.
right.
right,
So its original intent was overflow parking.
okay, so its original intent way back when never envisioned this 30-day long-term parking,
No,
okay?
no, this is a newer thing.
Right, when people started getting
Back in
pop-up
the
trailers
seventies,
and
people
know
didn't
where to
have
put 'em.
snowmobile trailers that they wanted to leave wall to wall in that parking lot.
Yeah.
Right,
Didn't happen.
right,
All
and
right, well,
some
then
of the,
I'm just gonna put it out there, then, again, I would like uniformity between, regardless what kind of vehicle it is. So if we're talking a passenger automobile, or a snowmobile trailer, or an RV, it's X amount of days and that's it.
And that's what you're suggesting by sections for each
Yes,
one of these animals.
Yeah,
so it's clear, people are not saying, oh, well, it's,
That's not
It's
down to
listed
the
right there.
vagueness of whether it has a dashboard or not.
right,
Right.
We're gonna
yes,
articulate
yes,
that.
let's
Right.
get rid of that frickin'
right,
dashboard.
we're not into that part yet.
And
We could put a pink tag on anything.
I'm predicting the 30 days, anything goes away. 30 days of storage.
it is
At
storage.
which point we call in the cops to haul it away.
Right, but we're gonna take the stuff out of, you can apply for a permit for 30 days.
Right,
Yeah,
I see that going away.
yeah, well, that makes it easier, yeah, just, it's uniform, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you wanna take a stab at a draft of this? We'll see you next year.
okay, so we're gonna remove the permit thing. Okay, everybody's still awake? Okay, and then. So we'll take out the 30-day.
Mm-hmm.
Do we wanna actually put
4,
4, or do you wanna go up to a week?
4's good.
4? Okay, 4 days,
Week of storage.
okay.
so are we gonna say anything specific about construction trailers?
Ah,
Sorry,
it's okay.
that just came to us instead.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, I thought it was something else.
No, no,
I'll be up to see you then.
Construction trailers can be the 4 days too. You shouldn't need to more than that.
Right,
Yep. so
Uniform
that-
across the board, no matter
Yeah.
what it is.
Okay, so you were writing down notes.
Yeah, I wrote down
This huge
remove
one.
the permit, 4 days,
yeah,
for parking, regardless of what it is. And that'll actually remove a lot of wording in a lot of the sections.
yeah, no notice.
And it'll clear it right out,
Yeah,
cause there'll be no worry about putting notice on the on anything, you know?
yeah,
Well, we need to talk about enforcement, if somebody decides to push that. What
Well,
point?
if it's there more than 4 days, then we'd go to the part that's already written in, about putting a chalk mark,
Yep,
and then we would do enforcement.
Yeah.
And enforcement would be notifying the police and having the thing towed.
Right. So basically, we're putting the warning out there that anytime past 4 days, it's subject to towing. It's at your risk. If you wanna try and leave it there 5 days or a week or whatever, it may go bye-bye.
so here on section 3, it says vehicles parked at the Hut Whale lot in excess of the 4 days, consecutive days without notifying the village.
That's gonna all get rearranged,
Yeah,
cause that'll go away,
okay,
because there'll be no notification, because it's 4 days the maximum.
but we still have to say something about subject to removal and enforcement of blah blah,
Yeah.
yep,
Yeah, I'll just be rearranging that entire section.
yep,
All set for now?
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we'll have a new,
Something else to work on,
yeah.
reviewing, whatever.
So at 10:06, we'll move to signature items, and the first bullet is a money transfer request form. Operations to water, this is the 47,250 that we discussed in the manifest.
Yes,
We need a form for that, I guess.
we do.
So I'll make a motion that we sign this money transfer request form for $47,250.
Second,
Aye.
aye.
3-0. Five, 14?
13.
13,
Vacation request form.
yeah, and I might not need the full day. It might just end up being a half a day, but I did a whole day just in case. It's a June 13th, it's Friday.
No, good day.
I'll make a motion that we approve this request for a vacation day for the 13th for Jennifer.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
3-0. And it's still the 13th of May. I'm gonna make a motion that we get the sheet of the workbook that has the tracking of the vacation days and personal days with the part of the workbook that has the sheet that you give us.
The time card thing, sure.
We should all sign that.
Oh, it has two
Yeah.
signature
Yeah.
spots.
That's, so you want me to start sending it in that Excel format?
Yes.
So it includes, okay,
Yep.
yep. Yep, time, yep, time card,
Because I don't know if you noticed that
in Excel.
there was a personal day last week too. I think Jeff took
Jeff.
Friday as a personal day,
You
Yes,
did. It's on it, yep,
so we should, I
yep,
think it's our job to track all that too.
Okay.
yep.
thank you.
I'll give this to Doug.
Okay, so,
So you made a motion, Nancy, to start receiving that time card. I usually scan it in a PDF, and he would like the whole Excel sheet that includes the,
email to us, you don't have to print it.
oh,
Yeah.
no, I wouldn't print it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah,
yeah, to see
yeah,
time off.
So you
Yeah.
want Nancy to make a second on that?
yeah.
Vote?
Second.
please.
How do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
3-0 on
Okay,
that.
great.
Let's see, so at 10:09, we'll move to commissioners' reports.
Okay.
And I talked about Rock House, talked about the swale.
Mm-hmm,
Driveways, Woodrow and I looked at driveways, Nancy and I looked at driveways earlier in the week.
okay, are those the two that I
We
mentioned
looked at
in
57
correspondence?
Otherwise Drive,
Oh.
and we looked at 57
Chicuruville.
Otherwise Drive, and we looked at Blendon.
Blendon.
Oh, okay,
And you and I also looked at 24 Chicuruville.
Well, I'll let her.
Okay.
So, You know the story of 57, because I wrote on that, and you
Correct, and I was,
communicated with the
yeah,
owner?
yeah,
Yep,
Nobody puts no, I shouldn't say nobody. Very rarely do people follow the Department of Transportation drawing that has ditch lines coming down the sides of the driveway. The idea is it goes to the sides of the driveway off the crown, it flows into the ditch line, it doesn't come out on the road.
right,
We looked at the rough markings of Blendon, measured from the
Yep.
boundary lines, and everything there looks good.
okay,
So they're gonna be permitted to start construction.
Yep.
Then Woodard and I looked at 24 Chicora Review, because the highway department pointed out that it was redone. An existing driveway was redone with gravel. Beautiful job. No permit. No permit?
well, no,
It's-
he already had his, that, years ago, you guys gave him a permit for
But if you
operation.
change a driveway,
We never got an application to say he was changing anything, no.
But do we know for a fact that he did change it?
Yes.
Was that actually witnessed?
well, if you got a permit years ago, did the permit say you didn't need a negative grade, that it could come right out onto the road?
Right,
Yeah.
I guess what we saw that it had no negative grade, didn't have any ditch lines, but we didn't see evidence of a lot of water coming down this long sloping driveway, straight
Right.
shot, long,
Huh.
incredibly long, hard packed.
and there is something in the ordinance, that refers to maintenance. And the homeowners are allowed to do regular maintenance, so if they want to, grade their driveway, if it's dirt or gravel, if they, put new gravel down, they're allowed to do that. That's something that I'll be bringing up when we get to working on the driveway ordinance, is I think there should be some type of inspection when they're going to be doing what they refer to as maintenance. Because maintenance can, like you said, take out the negative grade, it can change the width of the driveway, whether it's intentional or not, things can change versus the original permit. And it falls under maintenance currently.
yeah,
So that's something that I think when we get to the driveway ordinance, that's something that we should clear out,
gotcha.
you know, for everybody, that it, you know, how do we wanna do that? Do we wanna have a smaller permit for maintenance? Do we wanna have, we have to be notified of maintenance, you know? Because there's multiple times where they simply just got more gravel,
Yeah,
that's maintaining your driveway.
So in
So
this
they don't
case,
need a permit,
the highway department flagged it, they saw,
Yes.
they saw an activity that they wanted to tell us about.
right,
We went out and looked at it. We didn't see negative grade. We didn't see any evidence that it was currently damaging the paved road that the gravel driveway comes down. So the only thought I had was to be on record of saying that we see that you've done work to your driveway, we don't see a negative grade, we're concerned about the lack of a negative grade and water coming out onto the road. In that case, that's a dangerously steep paved road that goes down into
oh yeah.
a death-defying curve.
wow,
And for the driveway to be putting water out onto the pavement in the wintertime, under the right conditions, could be very exciting
Yes. It can be
and costly.
exciting without driveways adding water
So
in
it's
that
kinda like,
area.
we go on record of saying, we see this driveway and we're concerned about whether it's going to put water on, we'll be watching it. Cause that's the way I'm looking at it, is
and,
if
yeah.
it doesn't cause a problem, I'm not looking to
Right,
make people do things that they don't need to do.
so do you wanna get a letter, do we wanna do a letter to the homeowner?
Yeah, I'd like to Make a motion, we write a letter to the owner of that driveway on Chicora View, saying that we see, work done to the driveway, looks great. We're concerned about, our ordinance and water coming onto the road, so we'll be watching to see if it causes a problem,
Second.
if those are enough words.
Alright,
Well, you'll review it for
Yeah,
signature
yeah.
anyway, so.
massage it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
3-0 on that.
All right, so this is your report, Mark.
Yep.
right? Yeah.
So then the sealed bid purchase and sale agreement. I gave you a draft last week and I reworked it and looked at, I took some information that the town clerk gave me and thought about it differently. The first draft was constructed as if it was an individual selling a lot that they personally owned to someone else. Then I looked at it from the perspective of when the town of Madison sells a lot, which is closer to, not
we're
exactly,
doing.
but closer to what we're doing.
Mhm.
And I didn't see where title searches were part of things like that. They wrote the deed, and there are other major differences. Is that my understanding is that the purchase and sale agreement is what the new owner would take to the planning board and start a merger application. It will be the purchase and sale agreement showing they own the lot and the lot that they're merging it with, and the planning board takes it from there. The details of that I don't know, so we may have to do things as we learn what the planning board really does. And they couldn't answer that question, it's been so long since they did it, none of them could
Wow, huh?
remember the details
Yeah.
of how it works. So, the bid document is the purchase and sale agreement. We don't sign it when we send it to them. I'm hoping that in the next 2 days, you and I produce
Get that
the
letter.
3 letters
Yeah,
and get them certified mail out.
yes, yep,
And we have until the 24th, because we readjusted the times.
right,
They have a month to get it back, and it will be at
Right.
a Tuesday meeting that we open them here.
Yep.
The high bid will sign that. Now that's the award, and now it becomes the purchase and sale agreement.
oh, I
Changes
see,
from a bid, sealed bid, to the purchase and sale. They would have already filled it out and signed it.
Are we gonna,
But as I understand it, when
Rick-
they pay us, that money will go into escrow until such time that the merger is actually.
It's not gonna go to a separate agency. I took the separate agency out altogether, the title company. Is the original ordinance says that they pay us. So we will in effect escrow it,
Right, we'll self-escrow, yeah.
right? We'll just account for that as, like we're doing with the spread, the sheet. So the guarantee on the title is that if there's any problem with this, then we refund and
yeah,
right,
call the whole dance off,
It's called unrecognized revenue for your cash flow sheet.
okay?
so,
I'm sorry, what is it that they're signing and sending back?
That,
This?
Yep.
So this gets sent along with the letter? To the 3?
what do you have here?
Yeah, I've got everything in there,
I wanna review this with you,
okay,
cause I was even thinking that the letter could come from you,
yeah,
so we don't need signatures on it,
correct,
getting everybody together. And
right,
in the letter, it says you can call, and if there's any questions, you'll have a commissioner call them back.
I see,
That way, you're taking the call, but you don't have to come up with any answers, cause we
Okay.
have no idea what kind of questions they may have. This is the first time we've done this.
uh-huh,
right,
So you and I will review this.
right,
I forgot I even did this.
yeah,
It's nice it has the map on it.
I know, I know.
So if the Madison's
Should
own,
be
So,
color.
but back to my
That should be in
question,
color, the map.
oh, well, print ain't gonna pay for that,
No, it says in here they pay for all that.
oh, yeah, true.
This one
So-
is in, no?
You said that they'll sign something when they mail it back to us? And so is that the sheet they're sending back to us? So that gets sent along with the letter?
Out to them, yes.
out to them.
And here's the second page
But
is
that's
where
where
they,
they'll sign,
if there's more than one buyer, they'll both sign it.
correct?
Because it says in here, whoever they say is the buyer is gonna become the name on the deed.
Right,
So if it's husband and wife and they want both names on it, they would
Okay.
sign both here.
well, yeah. Okay, so that's what you're talking about,
Yeah.
we're gonna get back, okay. And we
So-
open them up here on a
Yeah,
Tuesday,
On the record, yeah.
right,
Okay, so if all three persons, potential persons, put in bids, and we open them,
mm,
make the determination as to, you know, obviously who's the high bid. When do we meet with the person to sign?
We don't need to meet with them.
well, we
Even
need,
the title company can do this all through courier. It's a matter of them, it's a matter of the signatures on the deed being notarized wherever they are.
so
You're talking about a closing?
how do we send notification to the bidder that they won? And that they need to send a
I
check?
have them putting their telephone number on there,
Yeah,
and next to it says the telephone number will be redacted before anything gets recorded. In other words, we're not gonna put their telephone number into the public record at the registry of deeds.
okay,
It'll be a big
uh-huh,
FBI blackout.
okay,
But if I understand it, the winner is truly not the owner of that property, and the title is not effective until such time that the merger is made. That's all on ice.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
yeah,
Now, seeing that you just said that the zoning board has no recollection how to,
Planning board,
planning board, to do a merger.
not the whole board, the people that were here at the time I asked, there was a couple of them.
Okay, I'm wondering, are we giving enough window of time for them to make a merger
Well,
happen?
I think I gave them through December to do
Right,
it.
and we talked about that.
Right.
You originally had a longer time frame. Nancy wanted a shorter time frame.
Actually, what
And
happened
then we
is,
agreed on,
I had the long time frame out to December, and then I moved the beginning date to the 24th, made the amount of time shorter, which should make her happy.
because you wanted to just close everything out in the fiscal year,
Yes,
as I recall.
Yeah,
Which
that's-
makes sense.
And it
But-
still is gonna
But if
happen
there's
that way.
gonna be a lot of confusion and red tape upstairs with the people who do this stuff, then we're sort of doing a disservice to the,
No, well,
we did say we could give an extension, I know that.
Right,
All right, then we need to just make that clear to them, that we're not gonna hold fast and true to this if there's a problem on this end,
right,
not their end.
right.
Yeah, okay, all right.
right, but realistically, the holdup could possibly be the planning board,
Not having a quorum.
not
for
having a
6 months.
quorum, you know?
Okay, yeah.
But that is a possibility, you know, we'll have to see how the planning board's doing moving forward. But as far as the planning board figuring out exactly how this happens, that's on them, that's not us.
And think of it
We don't
this
have
way,
to
it should-
figure that.
Should be really painful to the winner, new owner of it, because if there's a delay, we're not transferring that lot to anybody else in
Right.
the interim, or
Right.
doing anything else with it, so they basically have gotten an option on it without having to pay the taxes.
Right, but we are saying if they don't
We're
take,
just holding a
if-
significant amount of dollars in our bank while we're waiting for this all.
right, but we're also telling them that if they're not proactive in making the merger happen, regardless how well the Madison people perform, if they don't do anything, that's it, null
That's
and
right.
void, they get the
Right.
money back, and we move on.
okay,
All right.
So we probably should make a motion to capture all this. I'll make a motion that we send out this sealed bid and purchase agreement out to the 3 abutters before the 24th of June, and I'll work with Jennifer to get that done.
Second,
And 24th of June, and then they need to respond back by July 8th, is that the right date, which date
Well-
is?
it says sealed bid, return this completed and signed agreement,
By July 8th.
says June 23rd.
Which version you have here? The one they just did?
Yeah,
I think it's an older version.
That should be July.
okay.
Yeah,
It's a month they have.
right. The top line says that this agreement made this 24th day of June, so that's when it goes out.
Mm-hmm.
And the ordinance says they have a month, that we give them a month to get it back to us.
Oh, the 24th of June to the July 8th, that's not a month.
No, July 23rd, from June 24th to July 23rd.
So this line changes to July
Yeah.
23rd, okay. Okay.
You and I will
Yeah,
proofread this again.
yeah.
Yeah, delivered July 8th.
Oh, but then you gotta go down to the sealed bid.
Yep.
That says June 23rd there, so there's a couple conflicting dates here.
Yeah, everything's shifted. I
Yeah.
didn't shift these
I mean-
months.
I mean, the wording's all good, but the dates are confusing, so, you know.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, but the motion was to get the letter out.
Yep.
By June 24th.
Yep,
Second?
Second,
Aye.
aye.
3-0. So at 10:26, we'll move to Wood's report.
Yeah, just first, I'm curious where we stand on, collections for water fees. Any, like, percentage of, I did just rough, I'm not asking exact.
I don't know, because you didn't propose this question to me.
You're right,
So I could give you an answer.
I'm not putting you on the spot, I'm just asking for your sense.
To me, it's going awesome. The last few weeks, flooding.
Okay, that's.
So people are listening that, you know, I'm not gonna mess around, you're gonna get charged. So they're paying,
So,
so, yeah.
Okay.
It looks better than last year, tell you that.
Okay, then the uranium notification went out last week. Are we starting to get returns of non-deliverables yet? Have you seen any of
I
that in
haven't
the
seen
mail?
a one.
That's good
Did you get the
news.
letter yet? Anybody get the letter?
I got it.
You did.
Oh, good.
Went out Tuesday.
I haven't checked my mailbox.
Yeah, you still need to send me that.
Yes,
That
the one last thing I know, I need
notification. Okay,
the
good.
form that you can notify
Yeah, yeah.
NHDHS that, yes, we've done it.
Okay,
Get
good.
off our backs.
I know,
Okay.
because they'll be knocking on the door.
I will have that to you this
Yeah.
week, don't worry. Okay, that's all I
Good,
have.
all right, great.
Can I forgot one thing before. This morning I I copied you on a email I sent to FEMA.
yes,
There's one of the 6 projects is the architectural and design project for the Grissom culvert. And I think they have a budget of $56,000. And it says that they wanted me to sign off on it saying, we're gonna spend $56,000 or thereabouts on a new engineering design for the Grissom culvert that restores it to the same size culvert that's failing at the bottom of the ravine. In the discussions I had with FEMA, the FEMA person said, well, we can approve the project itself, not the design and architectural, but the project itself. And then you can say you'd really rather not put the 48-inch culvert at the bottom, you wanna put a box culvert. What the idea is that FEMA will reimburse for the excavation part of the project to get the old culvert back in place and put it all back. Which I thought, oh, that's great. That will help a lot. We'll see if the voters wanna reduce a $500,000 project by $150,000. But then the document that's on the portal doesn't say that.
No,
It says that I'm
signing off on the
I'm
architectural.
swearing to the federal government that we're gonna do an architectural and design and spend upwards of $56,000 to put a new version of the old culvert right back in place. So what you're seeing is, I'm saying to you, Kelly O'Brien, I can't do that. This needs to change to exactly what we have talked about. I don't know if she can do that. this is when the other guy at FEMA was on the video conference calls, said, you're trapped.
Yeah, right.
Because FEMA's trapping you into putting the old culvert back in place, and the state of New Hampshire says, you can't do that. So I thought we were talking illusion, that communication is happening, until we get to the thing where I get this email, which is automated, saying, sign this.
Yep.
So I said, no, can't do.
And you're gonna talk about it this Thursday.
No, I asked if we could do it next Thursday.
Okay.
I have a tight schedule this week. So anyway, sorry,
Yep.
now we're back to Nancy's report.
So with Woodard's report, we can, to continue with that, you were talking about seeing the numbers for the income. So we can certainly, I'll do it, I'll make a motion that next week, we see the income numbers from QuickBooks for this year's water billing.
And that's a motion you're making?
Yeah,
So I'll second it for discussion. That's just simply telling QuickBooks to do a report. There's
Yes.
there's no handwork, no chasing around stuff like
No,
they're
I
doing.
don't believe so.
right,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, my intent is not to make anything more than hit a,
It should
Button
already
that says
exist out
report.
there, we just need to find it. I'm sure we've produced it before.
right,
Okay, but at some point it gets down to, you know, without naming names, it's like we sent out 500 bills and we've collected on 470, so we still have 30 delinquents or something
Correct.
like that.
right,
Yep.
So we need to know that
Right.
too.
right, exactly, that's why I'm asking for that
And
report
that's
for next
kept
week.
confidential, we don't,
Yes, no, I wouldn't, well, the numbers don't need
no,
confidential.
the names.
Just the names are kept confidential, yeah.
Are
Okay,
you
yeah.
gonna who's
I
second?
seconded it already.
Okay,
Aye,
Aye,
3-0.
okay.
Yes, what's your next thing?
well, there is one that is significantly, delinquent at this point.
Yeah, right.
Motion log?
No,
Can you pass
water
this down
bills.
to her?
who's this coming to?
Nancy, I need her to see that. It has
Small
to,
claims notice. I read this, and I think I got hung up with the bad language that you were quoting in the ordinance.
Yeah. This needs to be
I-
cleaned
She
up.
said she didn't do this, she's
I was
copying.
absolutely going insane, but I cannot change the wording in
Not
the
now.
ordinance, and the misspellings and the not correct English is actually in the signed ordinance.
okay.
So,
We know who drafted this.
yeah,
The last sentence that you highlighted from the ordinance is, "The owner of the property will be of the fees."
Yeah, I saw all this.
yep,
That's kind
I'm
of
saying, can I
sad.
rewrite this, Nancy? No, I can't, I can't do it.
How
To
can
be
we?
with the fees, to be of the fees, and then we by the fees.
yeah.
So I
Wow,
have no idea what that means.
gotcha.
But yes, yeah, so I was getting all held up on that too, and then I went,
There's
nope,
nothing you
this
can
is
do.
what's in the ordinance, so I simply just copied it.
Okay,
So this would be something that we could use prior to anybody that we would potentially bring to small claims, because their water bill is so delinquent that we're at the point where we're gonna bring them to court.
So do we have to put the quote in from, this complete quote in, knowing that it's this horrible?
We don't have to, but
Wouldn't
I
it
just,
confuse them as to why?
Yeah, I think we need to
I
just
just
put it in our own
wanted, I
words.
just wanted to have the actual ordinance.
I think we just write it in the words as long as it's with the intent. The intent is the same as what's in the ordinance, but it's in our words, not
What the
these
ordinance
words.
meant to say.
Yeah, with the, exactly.
What it should have said.
It should have said what it meant to say.
well, I think she's including it because, she's saying in accordance with the water ordinance. and
Exactly.
she's-
Right, but we're discussing it now and.
I think if you wanna put a link to the ordinance if they wanna go look at it, but I think this is real confusing to put this right into the letter.
I agree.
Okay,
Wow.
It's gonna cause your phone to ring, and you don't have answers for
Well,
this.
yeah, I do, you're late, pay.
No, no,
Now.
no,
No, this is different
They'll
than
ask
being
you
late.
what does this say? I can't tell you what to say.
You're late.
Yeah, this is,
That's all you
you
wanna
know.
say, yeah.
this is beyond late fees, this is we're taking you to
You're
court.
very late.
Right,
Oh,
right,
wow,
and it's not, it's only been a couple of times that we've actually gotten to the point where we were gonna do something like this.
Wow.
But since we're right at the edge of one that's there, that's where I was thinking
Okay.
we could set this up and as we finalize it, we can, set it up for the future years
Going forward.
going forward, so that it will already be set up as, this is what we do when it gets to this
Right, we'll have
point.
a boilerplate letter for all
Exactly.
future, which hopefully there won't be, but if there
Right.
is, it's in place, yeah,
Right,
yep, yep.
So what is the point? Like, how far, like how many years have to go by for this to,
we used to use $1,000
oh,
or, yeah,
In late fees,
no,
total?
in water fees,
water fees.
Yeah.
that's not even 2 years,
Yeah, but at the time, the water fees were a lot less.
okay.
Oh,
So how many years did the water fee not have to be paid before, when we default into this action?
How far back you going? If it was $50 a year, which it was for many years,
Right,
be a lot of years, and
Yeah.
$50 to get you with $1,000, so I don't think the 1,000 was when it was 50.
no, I think it was when we first started with, regular water bills. Because that was when we had the hardest time collecting.
I
Because people were used to the $50 and all of a sudden they had one for a few
I
$100
see.
and
gotcha.
one year it was $400 and something dollars and and then it has changed over the course of the years. So these are things that we need to make decisions on, at what level do we wanna move somebody into this type of status?
So you'd like some answers to finish this, like the dollar amount that you have as X's, and the amount of time,
Well, I asked about the time.
or is the dollar amount
It
the
could
thing
be
that's the
anything
time?
that they owe, whoever owes whatever amount they still owe.
Were you thinking of a dollar amount for that?
Well, this would be how much they owed at that time.
Right, the number of what years and what water fees were in effect that year plus late fees, right? Total it all up?
Well, I'm assuming they've been shut off.
Yeah, but you still have to pay, even if you're shut off.
So-
But,
So you have this draft letter, and then we're gonna have a policy about when the letter gets sent, which is what Wood is asking about. When does the letter get sent? What triggers the letter?
At what point
Any
in time?
late fee?
I think at what point in time, after how many failures to pay the water fee, do we resort to small claims?
well, Nancy brought up a point about what it costs to actually bring these people to small claims. And the filing fee for that we pay for to get this to be heard in court. Which I have no idea how much that is. But you gotta consider that as well, so.
Then that should be in the ordinance if we're doing that, then that goes on as a penalty fee added on to the water bill.
Yeah, I agree,
The other water users shouldn't have to pay for that.
Right.
right. They pay all legal fees that we've incurred.
Could that be something that the court could address at that time as well?
Well, I think we would state the amount. So we would tack the filing fees
Be in this
on top
letter,
of
we
it.
added in there as we do this.
Yeah.
But that has to be in the ordinance.
I'm just wondering, this is, when we go to this last resort, we're now, in extremis with a water bill. And how many years, or is it the second year, is it the third year? I'm just curious as to what it would be. There's definitely a problem if a person has a second water bill going out and he hasn't even paid the one from the year before.
Correct.
That's probably, in my mind, the right point to do it.
Correct.
But
So we could let it go through or get into the second billing cycle and then put them right up into this, or, cause we don't wanna do it after the first billing cycle.
No,
Cause they still need to have some chance, but where, you know, that's really what I'm looking for. What does the board wanna do? What do we wanna see? Do we wanna see it after 2 years? If they haven't paid?
I would suggest, I'm gonna assume this is really gonna be a very rare instance, but let's say there's one case, okay, where they're coming up to the second water bill, which would be, okay, here's for, 2025, but, you owe this from before. You tack the two on together and you pay this all now, you're good. But if you don't, we're taking you to court. So this letter would be included in that second year water bill, because they haven't paid the water bill from the prior year. So it'd be a bill and a letter all at once. And I don't think it'd be that much of
I
an
think at
administrative
that
nightmare,
point,
because
these people don't care because they've already had their water shut off and they haven't reached out to us to get it turned on.
But they still have to be just given the notice that okay, this is your last chance. You're paying 2 years of water bills plus all the late fees, and if you do that, then we're good. But if not, guess what? We're taking you to small claims.
Well, it's a statement, and
Right.
yeah, a letter should go, yeah.
So I'm just
But,
saying,
I mean-
you just do it all at once. Do it all, it's killing two birds with one stone.
But is this sent certified? Is this?
I imagine it would be.
I would imagine it would be as well.
Because right now, we only have one property that's in this state, right? Right now?
I believe so.
Okay.
We'll be able to verify that next week.
Yes.
But I believe there's only one that's in
And I
this
think
state.
yeah, okay.
There's potentially another one too.
Okay. But the point is, it's gonna be a very rare instance, but that way just. I'm gonna make a motion that
In a
on
good
this.
economy,
What's that?
in a good economy.
Right.
I've seen economies where it changes what happens with these bills,
Right.
Okay.
payments.
All right, so I'm gonna make a motion that when the water bills go out, and if any particular homeowner has not even yet paid the water bill from the prior year, that the new bill consists of the prior year bill plus all the late charges, plus the new current year bill, and this letter.
But we haven't even approved a letter yet.
Well,
So
whatever the form the letter is, whatever
I think
form
we should
of the
redo
letter
the
is.
motion when we're ready to address
So in
the
other words,
letter and
the-
timing and,
The second bill is, this is your last chance, pay it by this date, which is, we always give everybody 30 days, right? Or May 1st, has to be paid by May 1st?
well, that's technically how it should,
Yeah.
but that really doesn't
It's
happen.
due May 1st.
All right, well, that's what we tell them. We said, but if we don't get payment in full for 2 years after May 1st, we reserve the right to take you to small claims court. That's what's gonna happen eventually.
Okay, that's gonna become a policy
Yeah, I
when
don't
we,
think that.
when we get to that point.
Okay.
I don't think we're ready to set that policy yet, but I do agree with 2 years is a good starting point for putting together that policy moving forward.
I was just saying the nuts and bolts of
Yeah.
how you'd actually do it.
Yeah.
From a logistics point of view, or
Yeah.
admin point of view.
Yeah, but, so for the one that we currently have, I'll remove the wording from the actual ordinance, put in the link. Anything else that you think should be in or not in for this particular one? Cause this will be our first run with actually sending,
A statement out of the QuickBooks system?
no, sending a letter to the person stating failure to respond will result in a small claims.
Should the letter include what they currently owe? The amount that they
Yeah,
currently
it
owe?
does.
It'll be right there.
Oh, yeah, that's right, the XXXXX, okay, and then add plus, filing fees. No, that there will be additional charges tacked on to this is just strictly the water bill and late charges, all the water bills and late charges, but there'll be additional fees, you'll be liable for paying the, filing fees to take you to court. Which is TBD, we can't
So if
figure out
we,
what that amount is right now, but
Well,
If
it says the filing in the amount, so we decide what the filing is.
right. So up at the beginning, you have not responded, is now delinquent in the amount of, so from the very first, the water bill for your property located at whatever the address is now delinquent in the amount of,
Yes,
oh, I think I'm looking at an older version. Am I with this? That's a different version than you did 2 versions, right?
So that would be different than the filing fee at the end?
Okay.
yeah, it could be,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
That would be confusing.
so what if they get this letter and call up and say, I mean, what kind of payment should I be expecting? A bank check? Money order? Should I trust them that they're gonna write a personal check that's gonna cover this?
That's a good question. Maybe it should be a certified bank check.
Okay, so we'll put the amount right up
Yeah.
front as well.
Yep.
Should we put a statement right
Yeah,
at the end? Where it,
I think you should include a statement with it. Why
no,
not?
no, no, I'm not talking about a billing
Oh,
statement.
oh.
Talking about the letter.
Yeah, how we wanna get paid? How we should receive the payment?
What do you think? Should we say something that we're gonna be adding, you know, that the difference, that there's a different amount in the top than in the bottom because of filing fees? Or could put a statement that failure to respond in 20 days will result in small claims and you will be required or will ask the court to get the filing fees. I don't remember which way it worked. Whether the court ordered
Just
that they
say
pay it
Your,
or,
your final number, the filing, which includes court costs.
This is what you owe us,
Make it
plus
2
any
different
additional charges for court costs.
So if the number's there, if they wanna pay what they owe and avoid the court and the court costs, they pay the top number. If they don't, they should expect to go to court and be paying the bottom number.
okay. All right, we'll have a new draft for that.
Put the commissioners in alphabetical order at the bottom.
Why?
Because that's the way you do it.
I always list chair first.
Yeah, usually that's how I see
And
it
then in
as
alphabetical
well.
order. So that, okay, we got both ends covered, good. That's it. I'll make a motion.
Okay, I always put me last.
No. You're cold.
So, are we continuing with the motion that Widow was trying to make?
No, we don't need to, because that's
Okay.
gonna go into the policy.
yes.
It's gonna go into the
I
policy.
agree.
We just
Okay.
made an agreement that that's the way it should be,
All right,
be done.
Yeah.
Now,
okay.
just out of curiosity, since if I understand correctly, homeowners like this one, sometimes wait until like the day before their property is going to be confiscated by the town of Madison, and then they'll pay something, not necessarily the entire bill,
Tax-wise. you mean.
property tax-wise. Is this notification something that Madison should know about too?
No.
No. Madison has nothing to do with our water system.
I know that,
Nor do they wanna be dragged into anything that looks like this.
But
Correct.
what I'm thinking about is like,
True.
Bob Boyd won't issue a building permit unless he sees the driveway permit through VDOE. That's why I'm just wondering if there's any sort of connectivity that can be made to further
not-
put pressure on the homeowner to pay.
they're not relevant. They're
No.
two different
The
animals,
answer's no.
Okay,
yeah,
I'm looking for
Yeah.
leverage here, I'm
Yep.
looking for leverage here.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know.
no,
When the house sells, the real estate person usually asks if the water bill has been paid and so forth. That's when we can get our money.
Okay, that's correct, in other words, he
And,
can't sell the house until he pays up.
and we're second in line to anybody else that is owed money.
yes,
We're the last ones to be paid if a judge is divvying up
Yeah.
the sale.
which is why, many years ago, we came up with the process of bringing the property owner to small claims to get our funds, because water liens are, like Mark said, absolutely the last thing. They would pay a contractor, they would pay everybody before we would get a cent.
We have 10 minutes.
Okay.
Well, we're almost done.
We have more on the agenda.
Okay,
Okay,
Are you all done, Nancy?
let's move on.
sure.
You are done?
Yeah, I'll be working on a new draft.
Okay.
So
Yep,
at 10:51, we move to correspondence, and you have,
so it was correspondence that we received regarding that property across from, how do you say that?
Four class.
Four class.
Yeah, four class. So, I didn't know if you had any input. It's generally, personally, I don't think there's anything we can do on the property owner. We did approve a driveway for construction. It doesn't appear that
the only
they're
thing we
putting
can
in a
do is
driveway.
go look at the driveway and see if it is expired, if she hasn't done anything.
It's not expired, it's still good.
Then there's
You just
nothing.
did
Yeah,
it in
then there's
October.
nothing we can,
Right,
nothing we're gonna do.
right. So we can't enforce anything that says, well, you applied for a construction of a driveway, but yet you're not doing it, but yet you continue to bring building type items into this property.
Well, then that goes over to
So
Madison, doesn't it?
They're
You can't
doing
do
it
a
without
building.
creating a driveway. So therefore,
There's
there's
nothing,
nothing we can do.
right,
And code enforcement isn't gonna do anything,
Yeah.
because they do have a driveway permit.
yep.
And it's certainly not a,
Okay, what about
Issue for
parking,
anybody
what
else.
about parking on the street overnight?
that's legal.
Okay,
From April to May? No, to
October?
October,
September.
November, somewhere around there.
yeah,
And sleep in the car.
and sleep in the car.
That's not our issue.
Okay, all right, I just wanted that to be talked about,
I
um,
don't think it's a good idea, but
nobody does.
there's not anything that we can do about that unless it was a enforceable Madison thing or a police issue, and
Right.
they both said no, so.
Correct. And then Mark already talked about the Chikora View driveway,
Yes,
so we're good with that.
yep.
Okay.
Okay.
So at 10:54, we move to public comments.
Just one thing quickly, I'd like to do the swim rafts Tuesday or Wednesday. Do you know if Jeff and Tony are due in Tuesday and Wednesday next week?
As far as I know, yes.
Of next week.
Yes.
As far as
Two.
I know. No, Tony's not in
vacation.
next
Oh,
week. Next week, Tony's
That's
gonna
right, he
be
said he's on,
unavailable, but,
Correct.
Jeff should be in.
yeah,
Okay.
Because the Memorial Day weekend does start a week from this coming Friday.
Yeah, we'd like to get them in next week.
Where do the picnic tables stand? The one at the summit?
We don't know.
The illusion that the conversation, communication is taking place. So I'll make
Well,
a
what-
motion that
okay,
the DPW buys a picnic table and puts it at the summit, chains it up as soon as possible.
okay.
Second,
Aye.
aye,
3-0.
So Tony's gone the entire next week?
I
Sorry.
believe so, yeah.
it possible to get some EPOA volunteers?
Yeah, I've got a couple of people.
Okay, I mean,
saying,
I would love to help,
think
but
that
you know,
we can
my,
do it with Jeff.
my situation, I can't, I don't have the time.
Yeah, I think that we can do it with Jeff.
Good.
Yeah, at least get, Thusis out, the problem child
Yes,
from
yes,
last year.
Uno and Tusis, but
Well,
Boulder-
Little
Boulder Beach would be
is just
important,
about
too.
half in when I saw it.
High water, yes.
Okay, so there's a plan for that, any other comment? All set?
Yep.
So I'll make a motion that we recess this public session into a non-public session.
Do you reset, I don't know how that
Second.
works.
We're recessing this public session,
Recess public, yep,
and
to move into,
I guess we could vote to go into the non-public session for 9:30 tomorrow, or should we do it then?
Well, I think we'll do it then, but I think we can do it right now, just so that everybody knows
It's on the
that
record, yeah.
it's on the record.
So before we recess, so I made the motion, but it didn't get seconded, we didn't vote on it. So I'm making a motion now that we go into non-public session
okay,
to discuss employee,
Employment matter.
needs a second.
Second.
Roll call vote, how do you vote, Nancy?
Aye.
How do you vote, Winner?
aye.
And I vote aye. So now I'll vote that we recess this public meeting.
Second.
Aye.
3-0 on that.
okay,
Yeah.
Thanks, Carol.
Reese, common treasurer.
Okay.
so
Meeting at 9:30 tomorrow.